Hi, I'm Veronica from Mini Urban Farm, a channel about urban gardening and homesteading in the suburbs. Today I'm going to show you how to separate tomato seeds. So if you plant a whole bunch of tomato seeds in one cup like I did to save space, you're going to need to now separate them out and put them in their own cups so they can grow faster and stronger. It's really easy and I'll show you exactly how to do it in just a few steps. So if that sounds good, be sure to hit the like button and let's get started. Okay, so I've got my grape tomato seedlings here. These actually have gotten quite leggy, as you can see. Look at all of that growth, just because it's been really cloudy here and raining a lot, so they've been searching for the sunlight quite a bit. So that's not a problem though, because we can fix it. With tomato seedlings, it is super easy to transplant and to separate seedlings out. So that's the good thing about tomatoes. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and actually fill out all of my seed cups. I'm just using red solo cups here and preparing with seed starting soil. So I'm going to take this and fill them pretty much all the way. I like to let my transplants get a little bit big before I do plant them in the garden. So I'll go ahead and do that, fill up all my cups, and I have quite a few cups to fill up since I have so many. I have about 6 or so cups of these kind of tomatoes. And if you stay to the end of the video, I'll actually show you a way that you can actually skip having to plant tomatoes from seeds and just take cuttings from them. It saves you about 2 months, and it's actually a way that I've been using now. I still plant out my tomatoes from seeds, but if there's a specific variety that I still have growing in the garden, it's just significantly easier. So I'll show you that towards the end of the video also. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is very carefully take these out of the pot. I'm going to remove the little thing here, the little name label, and I'm going to turn this upside down and with my hands kind of like in between the tomatoes, right? So you can see I'm kind of holding them. I'm not pulling the tomatoes. Don't ever pull a plant out of the cup like that. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to put my hands right there like that in between, right? And then I'm going to just carefully squeeze this and let it all fall out. Now it's going to be a mess usually of little plant roots, which is how you know you did it right. Alright, so I'll just set my cup aside somewhere, and then you're gonna come in very carefully. Now tomatoes are pretty good at transplanting. I see like a little one that didn't really grow, so I'll set that aside. I'm just gonna come in very carefully and start loosening this up. And after a little while, you'll see it starts kind of like releasing some of the soil. You can see the soil dropping there. All right, and it does start coming apart very carefully. I wouldn't be too concerned if you're, having to pull some of the roots together, because tomatoes, like I said, do transplant very easily. But you see this? Come in here, and it's still connected, but I'm just gonna loosely kind of pull it a little tiny bit, and it comes with all of these roots attached. Okay, so now that I have one little tomato seedling with some roots on it, I'm gonna take one of my already prepared cups with my seed starting mix in it. I'm gonna poke a hole. Now these roots are pretty long, so I'm gonna poke a hole as far down as I can, or use maybe a little stick to poke a hole, or a pencil or something like that. Okay, don't worry if the roots are too bunched up. Tomatoes usually don't have too much problems being separated out. So I'm going to take the roots and I'm just going to very carefully let them fall all the way in the hole, pushing them down very gently as I go. And something to consider about tomatoes, when you are transplanting the roots out, you can actually plant up all of this stem right here that I'm holding. You can plant it all the way down in the soil up to the first set of leaves. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, because what ends up happening is they actually grow roots from their stem. They have like these little fuzzy things on the sides of them, and they actually will grow roots from anywhere on their stem as long as it's in contact with the soil. So there you go, one tomato seedling down. And then I'm going to keep doing that for my entire set of seedlings here. So I'm just very carefully, and this might come apart in clumps. So you see there's like 4 here that came out. I'm just going to continue going and breaking it down all the way, loosely letting them just kind of fall apart. And then they come out with all of their roots. I'm going to take the next one, do the same thing, and just let that fall all the way in, and I'll help the roots kind of go all the way down. So for this one, it's actually quite tall, so I actually dumped out some of the seed starting mix in here, and I'll just put that in and then let the seed starting mix fall around it, so I make sure that the entire stem is buried. And then I'll go down the line and do that for every single one of them. Alright, so as you can see, I have potted up all of my grape tomatoes. Now I still have my orange tomatoes and my Roma tomatoes that I need to up pot, but I separated everything and they're all in their own individual little pots here. I'm going to go ahead and water them in and put them in the greenhouse. So just like with planting seeds, you also want to make sure that you separate out seedlings into containers more than you think you're going to need, because even though tomato seedlings do pretty well with transplanting, there will be some that just simply don't survive. Either the root system got damaged, or for whatever reason they didn't get enough water, or whatever the case is, you will have some that, you know, just don't make it. The majority of my tomato seedlings, when I separate them out, they do just fine, but there's always one or two that just ends up wilting and ultimately doesn't make it. So I always make sure that if I need 8 tomato plants of a certain type, then I plant out 10 for those. And even if you know, and then at the end of the day, if you have extra, then great. Alright, so here's the tip I was telling you guys about. Now these are my tomatoes that are still going really strong. These are black cherries. I'm not planning on planting black cherries, but if you want to take a clipping of these, you could literally just come down here and snip, just like that. And then you have an entire tomato clipping, and that you could literally just take the leaves off the bottom part of the stem and put this directly in the soil, and it would grow roots. Because you see all of these little fuzzies here, those have the potential for roots. If you plant this deep enough, it will grow roots. The same way that if you plant this along the floor, it will start growing roots and form a whole bunch of new little leaves and plants and everything. So that's just one tip. If you have indeterminate tomatoes, you can make a whole bunch of new tomato plants to give away to family and friends, and then you have an entire established tomato plant. This is something that you don't have to wait to germinate. For a tomato plant that size that you start from seed, you're probably going to have to wait like a month and a half. So if you take a clipping and just plant it, it will grow roots and you can jumpstart the entire process and have tomatoes quicker. Alright, so that wraps up this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you learned how to separate tomato seedlings so that they grow healthy and strong. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more urban gardening and urban homesteading content. Thanks!